Okay, let's think about this for a second. On the surface, giving a country like Somalia powerful new weapons to fight terrorists, it sounds like a no-brainer, right? A good thing. But what if those same weapons, the ones meant to bring peace, are the very things pushing the country right to the edge of a new civil war? That's exactly what we're diving into, the huge, complicated problem with Turkey's tanks in Somalia.
So picture this. It's February 2026. A Turkish ship pulls into Mogadishu, probably under the cover of night. And it's not unloading food or medicine. No, it's unloading tanks. We're talking Cold War-era Patton tanks. Plus, a whole bunch of modern drones and armored vehicles. It's a massive injection of military muscle for the Somali National Army.
Now, the official story, the one being told to the world, is super simple and, really positive. The idea is that this new hardware is going to give the central government the punch it needs to finally knock out al-Shabaab, which is, let's be real, one of the toughest insurgent groups on the planet. This is being sold as the final piece of the puzzle for Somalia's security.
Okay, but here's the big question, the paradox at the heart of all this. If these weapons are for fighting terrorists, why are so many experts and regional leaders absolutely terrified? How could a gift that's supposed to unify the country actually become the thing that rips it apart? Let's get into it.
Right, so that really brings us to the core tension of this whole situation. Are we looking at a gift or a threat?
This quote from the source material just nails it. You can't build a federation at the end of a tank barrel. See, Somalia is supposed to be a federal republic. It's built on a really delicate power-sharing deal between different regions and clans. And well, a tank, that's not exactly a tool for negotiation, is it? It's a tool for telling people what to do.
And that's our first big idea here, this illusion of power. It looks like the central government in Mogadishu is getting stronger. But what's really happening is that the country's political foundations are starting to crack under the weight of all this new military hardware.
To really get why this is happening, you have to understand something called the security dilemma. It's a classic concept. So imagine your neighbor suddenly buys a tank and parks it on their front lawn. They tell you, hey, don't worry, it's just to scare off burglars. Are you going to believe them, or are you going to feel like that tank is pointed right at your house? Well, in Somalia, the central government is that neighbor with the new tank, and all the regional states are watching and getting very, very nervous.
And this is where you see two totally different realities clashing. From Mogadishu's point of view, these tanks are a national security tool. Simple as that. But if you're in a regional state like Puntland or Jubaland, you see something completely different. You see weapons that belong to the president's clan, designed to do one thing: crush your independence.
So what does this do? It creates something analysts call a military veto. I mean, think about it. Why would you bother with all the messy, difficult work of political compromise, especially with the 2026 elections coming up, when you've got a fleet of tanks to back you up? You can just impose your will. It completely replaces dialogue with the threat of brute force.
Okay, so the political fallout is a huge deal, but that's only half the story. There's also a massive practical problem here. What happens when these high-tech, high-risk weapons end up in the wrong hands?
Yeah, this is the nightmare scenario. It's called the battlefield loot factor. Look, al-Shabaab are masters of the ambush. They hit government forces hard and fast, and every single time they pull off a successful attack, they don't just win a fight, they win a prize. They capture equipment. So the terrifying reality is, we're not just arming the Somali army, we could be pre-stocking al-Shabaab's future arsenal with tanks.
And that's not the only way to lose control of these things. Not by a long shot. You've got what's called institutional leakage. That's a fancy way of saying corrupt officials or soldiers who haven't been paid just sell the gear. Then there's the complexity trap. These tanks and drones aren't simple. The Somali army is completely dependent on Turkish contractors to even keep them running. And maybe the scariest one of all, if a political crisis kicks off, what's to stop whole army units from just taking their tanks and going home to defend their own clan's interests? Absolutely nothing.
Okay, let's pull back the camera for a minute. We have to zoom out, because what's happening in Somalia, it's not just about Somalia. The country has been sucked into this huge, high-stakes game of geopolitical chess. It's trapped between the competing ambitions of much, much bigger powers.
And this is what's known as the proxy trap. It's a classic situation. Somalia has basically traded some of its independence for security, but now that security is completely tied to the shifting goals of foreign powers. It means Somalia is no longer the master of its own fate.
And man, is it a messy situation. You've got the central government, backed by Turkey, trying to consolidate all the power in Mogadishu. Pushing back against them are the regional states like Puntland, and they're backed by Turkey's rival, the UAE. And then you throw Ethiopia into the mix, who's aligned with the UAE and is desperate to get access to the sea. Somalia has become the chessboard where all these outside powers are playing their game.
And let's be really clear about something. This is not charity. Turkey's protection comes with a very steep price tag. Get this, Turkey gets 30% of the revenue from any oil and gas discovered in Somali waters. That completely blurs the line between being a security partner and being a corporate shareholder. It gives Turkey a massive financial stake to protect, and they now have the tanks to do it.
So, with all this high-level geopolitical chess playing, what does it actually mean for the people on the ground in Somalia? Well, it means you're pouring gasoline on a fire. You're injecting modern, powerful weapons into ancient rivalries, and the human cost of that, it could be devastating.
Because at its heart, this whole deal is arming one side of a deep historical rivalry. You have the Rahanweyn clan, who pretty much dominate the central government, and then you have their rivals, the Darod clan, who are the main power base in regions like Puntland. So when someone from the Darod clan sees a tank controlled by the Rahanweyn-led government, they're not thinking national security. No way. They're seeing an existential threat. It brings back horrible memories of the civil war in the 1990s.
And it's not just about those two clans. For other groups, like the Rahanweyn people, they're farmers. They live in Somalia's fertile breadbasket. The fear is a little different, but it's just as real. To them, these tanks look like tools of internal colonization. They see them as the way for powerful armed clans from the capital to come in and just grab their ancestral lands, all under the excuse of security operations.
And you know what? This isn't just paranoia. This is based on facts. The data shows there was a 45% spike in clan clashes over land in those exact regions in 2025. And listen to this. That was before the new Turkish tanks even showed up. So these tanks are like throwing fuel on a fire that's already burning out of control.
So when you put all of this together, it means that right now, in 2026, Somalia is facing its most dangerous moment since the entire state collapsed more than 30 years ago.
But look, it doesn't have to end in disaster. There are off-ramps. There are ways to de-escalate this. Experts are pointing to some clear steps. You could set up an international body to actually track these weapons. You could decentralize control of the heavy armor, so it's not just in the hands of one group. You could mandate that the army has to recruit from all Somali clans. And you could create a maritime security plan that everyone, all the regions, agrees on.
And that brings us right back to the final, haunting question. The choice couldn't be more stark. Are Somalia's leaders going to use this newfound military power to actually negotiate, to build a truly unified nation? Or is the temptation just going to be too great? Will they use these tanks to settle old scores and in the process shatter the country? Maybe this time for good.